Welcome, welcome to video 2 of this video series. In this video, we will be talking about my printer, Anycubic Mega X. So starting off, we have the base. The base is the foundation of everything on this 3D printer, such as the print bed and the frame. The frame defines how high the nozzle can go in the Z direction, so up and down. And the nozzle is where filament gets heated up and melted, so it could be moldable into the object that the user wants. Next to the nozzles, we have a few air ducts that make sure that the nozzle doesn't overheat during the print, because sometimes you have to heat the nozzle to over 230 Celsius degrees to be able to melt the plastic. Next, we have this tube going to the filament area. The filament area is where all filament is at, and the filament goes to this filament sensor, which checks if there's still filament during a print. If there's no more filament during the print, it will stop the print until there is more filament, and then it will keep on going. Then it goes through this machine, where it automatically feeds filament into the nozzle where it gets printed out. So it goes through this quite long tube. And then at the end of it would be the nozzle, which the filament gets heated up into and molded into the correct object that the user wants. Next, we have these adjustable nuts. The adjustable nuts are here so that we can level the printing bed. I will explain this thoroughly in the next video, but these are here. There are 4 on each corner of this print bed. There are 4, and we can turn these to be able to either go up and go down of the print bed, so we can level it correctly so it doesn't scratch the surface of the print bed. Next, we have the display, which is the kind of like the user interface of how to work this printer, or how to make it print, or where to heat it up, or where to cool it, or where to stop the motor, and stuff like that. Next, we have where to print. So in the print menu, there's currently blank, but you have to put an SD card that I believe they give you. You put it through this slot back here, and it should pop up all your print menus, or like the print things that you have stored on this card. Make sure they are .g code files, and because that's the only type of printer that's the only type of file that this printer reads. So then you can just click on one, you can do print, and then the machine will start heating up. As you can see, it's warming up by itself. The motors aren't running right now because all it's doing is heating it up. So while it's heating up, we're going to talk about these settings or limit switches. So this is the X limit switch that tells how far they went back, or to make sure it stops at a certain point. There's one for the Z, and there's one for the Y back here. Now that we are done with the front view of the printer, let's go to the back view. So starting off in the back row, we have the extruder. The extruder is what feeds the filament to this tube, which leads to the nozzle where it gets heated and printed out. Then we have the Z motor on both sides. There are 2 on each on the 3D printer. And then we got the Z limit switch, which tells the Z axis when to stop. There's one on each side. Next, we have the Y limit switch. It does the same as the Z limit switch, but it's for the Y axis, so it tells the plate when to stop in both directions. Here's the filament detector, which tells if there's no more filament, as I explained in the front one. And this is the X motor, which moves the nozzle along the X axis. Now that we're done with the physical 3D printer specs, now let's look at the display specs. So, when you first open up your 3D printer, you'll be greeted with the home menu. The home menu will have these 3 buttons in the front. they will be labeled print, setup, and tools. These will let you enter the print list, the setup list, and the tools list. Down here you have the printer status, which is what the printer is currently doing, or what it is at. Up here you will have the nozzle temp and the target temp. The nozzle temp is what your nozzle is currently heated at, or what your nozzle is currently what temperature your nozzle is currently at, and the target temp is what the system wants the nozzle to be at. Then you got the heated bed temp. It is the same thing as the nozzle temp, but just for the bed. So here would be your current bed temp, and this would be your target bed temp set by the system. The print page. When you press the print button on the home screen, you will be greeted by the print page. It's quite simple to use. The up and down arrows navigate through these 4 slots by pages. The refresh button refreshes the prints that are currently on here. And then these are the file lists. To print them, you can click on a file and then print, and then you can pause and stop your print through here as well. To return to a home menu, press the return button. Now, if you were to press a setup page, if you were to press setup on the home page, you will be greeted by this screen. To start off, you will have language. Language is to change language from either Chinese to English or English to Chinese. These are the current 2 options there are. Motor just disables all motors, so you're able to manually move the stuff around, but this cannot be done during a print. If you were to press on the temperature menu, something like this would pop up. This button is to lower the set temp, and this button would to be make the set temp higher. This would be your current nozzle temp, and this would be your suggested or your recommended or your set nozzle temp. Same thing with here. This would be your current bed temp, this would be your set bed temp, and then these 2 buttons can adjust what your set bed temp is. To press OK would save all of these, and to press back, it would go back to the setup page 1. Next, you have setup page 2. Here, the voice button acts like to disable. If you were to press it once, it would disable all beeps when you're to press a button. The speed button would turn out to something like this. This looks similar to the display on the temperature, but it's quite different. The functions work the same, so here you would add how fast the set fan speed is, and this would lower the fan speed. And then same thing with here, the print rate, and then the current print rate. So the fan speed ranges from 0 to 100, and these 2 are to decrease and increase them. The print rate would be from 50 to 100, and these 2 are to adjust them. The lower the print rate is, the more detailed a print can be, but bear in mind that the print will take very long to finish. The OK button will set these up, and then you can put the backspace button to go back to the menu. Next, you have the status page. The status page is to show everything that is going on in the printer. So the files would be only for offline printing, aka from a memory card. The time would be for how long the print has been running currently. It does not include the predicted time. The EO temp equals the nozzle temp. Same thing that's on the home screen and on the temperature screen. This would be your current nozzle temp, and this would be what you're trying to set it to. The XYZ would be the chords of the current nozzle. So X would be side to side, Y would be front and back, and then Z would be up and down. The print rate would be how fast you set your print to be. So it ranges from 50% to 100%. But be warned, if you were to make it lower, make the print rate lower to make sure it's more detailed. The print might take quite a while to finish. The progress bar is what everybody will look at mainly when you are to first get to the status page. This will determine how much time is left or how much of the print is done. The bed temp works the same as the nozzle temp, but it's for the bed. So this is your current bed temp, and this would be your set bed temp. The print and resume buttons are only here for offline printing, such as from the memory card. This is to either, so if you were during a print, you would press pause here, and this would be to stop. The tools page number 1. The first button you see on the tools page is the home button. The home button is to home either the X, Y, Z, or all of their axes to make sure they're all in the correct positions, either ready for the bed to be aligned with it or for some other reason. Next, you have the move axis menu. The axis menu works by millimeters, so if you were to move on the x-axis, it would be from left to right by 0.1 millimeters, 1 millimeter, and 10 millimeters. From the y-axis, it would be forward and backward 0.1 millimeters, 1 millimeter, and 10 millimeters. And for the z-axis, it would be up and down on the z-axis by 0.1 millimeter, 1 millimeter, and 10 millimeters. So the speed of these determine how fast you want the axes to move. So high is to make sure it moves 10 centimeters quite fast, and low would make it move slower. The back menu makes it go back to the other page. Next, you have the preheat page. The preheat page is to just like a preset, and if you were to press any of these, they would automatically set the temp to what is preheated, and then the set temp for PLA filament type and ABS filament type. This is to return back to the other page. So here, on the page 2 of it, also on the bottom, there are 2 arrows here that can change which page you are going to. And now you have the cooling button. The cooling button just cuts off power to the hot end, which is the nozzle and the heated bed, and this only works while the printer is not printing anything. Reset is to check if you want to reboot the entire main board, and filament. Filament is only valid for offline print, aka from like the SD card. So this is the filament home screen, or the filament screen technically. To press, well, if you were to press filament in, it would set the temperature for the nozzle to the correct temp for filament in, and then press the stop button to stop pushing in filament, and then to remove filament, it will apply the correct heating temperature to remove the filament, and this button is to go back. So this is the third page and also the final page of this tools page. So the help button. The help button will have many things here that will just describe what you need to do, and that it's just here to help you along with the printer. And then the about is just to know the information about the printer by itself. So that's it on printer specs. I hope you learned a lot, and see you in the next video.